My fellow Amazonians, this is Dr. Ayaba. It has been brought to my attention that the US has indicted three Amazonians in the past days, and they've engaged in raid in the homes of other Amazonians, including some leaders. I thought I was going to react to this officially on Saturday, but because I'm aware that the enemies of our liberation will exploit these to have some victories in social media that they have failed to have on the battlefield, I thought it was important for me to make some initial reactions. I haven't read extensively the indictment, but based on preliminary readings, I want to set this in context. I know that a lot of speculations have been made with background information. This background information has been used to set the indictment in context. And the background information has narrated activities of those who have been indicted, including mobilization of resources publicly for funding of our resistance against Cameroon. The indictment is very specific, and I will also speak about this indictment in the context of US laws and precedents. What we know is that these individuals have been engaged in activities in Amazonia that has resulted in the kidnapping of individuals, and money has been transferred, I think, from the United States into the hands of these individuals, and those who've transferred these funds have been US citizens. So they are accused of coercing US citizens to transfer money for the release of their kidnapped family members. This is purely against US laws, and this has nothing to do with the mobilization of resources for the prosecution of our war of liberation. This is very important. We are also aware of previous indictments of individuals who engage in the moving of arms from the United States. That is also illegal within the context of US laws. We may be aware of the Iran-Contra affair that involved President Ronald Reagan. So the previous indictment is not simply an indictment that was targeting them because they were engaged in the movement of materials for a liberation war. Because within the context of the Iran-Contra affair that involved Ronald Reagan during his second term, Ronald Reagan had illegally sold arms to some Iranian groups to mobilize monies to fund certain activities in the Caribbean. And the United States Congress had outlawed the sale of arms to these groups. Reagan sold these arms both to mobilize money and to pacify Iran in getting Hezbollah help to free US hostages. Let me put this clearly. So there were several, I think Reagan's national security advisor was deeply involved in this. Many of them were indicted. I think they were only pardoned by Bush Sr., I guess. So in the United States, if you engage in the moving of arms, especially out of the United States or even between states that have outlawed such movements, you'll be violating US law, irrespective of the objective of the movement of those arms. The people indicted under Reagan had a justification they wanted to secure the release of US citizens, and they also wanted to fund anti-Sandinista activities in other areas. Though they had a justifiable cause, it was against an act of Congress that had outlawed such activities, and they were indicted. So irrespective of the course you pursue, wherever you reside, you must be cognizant of the activities you engage in and the laws of that country. It is perfectly legal to be a citizen of the United States and you engage in activities to undermine or to fight for human rights, liberation from your country of birth or in your country of birth. The other prohibition that we must take note of: if the United States has outlawed any group, it is illegal to fund that group. We saw this with the case of Al-Shabaab. Once it was outlawed, it was illegal for Somalians to fund. But we are also aware that US citizens are not only funding activities in Ukraine, they are volunteering their services to fight in Ukraine. We also saw that within the context of the Kosovo Liberation Army, where US citizens volunteered to fight. We also saw in the Eritrean War, in the Kosovo War, massive mobilization of resources internationally for those struggles. So I would encourage you to continue to mobilize resources to end the genocide against our people and to take out the last Cameroon soldier from our land. It is our right under international law to do these activities, except within a particular context. These activities have been prohibited by law or by any pronunciation, principles or conventions, and so far none of those things exist across the globe. So Ambazonians across the globe must continue to prosecute this war for it. The next issue which I would like to clarify, which I know a lot of anti-nationalists, saboteurs, and opportunists and scavengers have been trying to use as scare tactics against us, has been the issue of kidnapping. Kidnapping is a natural occurrence in times of war. We have been able to recognize the fact that ungovernable spaces are filled by bad actors. The greatest kidnapper within the context of the Ambazonian struggle is the regime in Yaoundé. It has kidnapped thousands of Ambazonians from including Nigeria, including Biafra, and has deported them, violating international law, and put them under kangaroo trial and detained them. It has thousands of our people who were kidnapped from our territory and other places in its jail under inhumane and degrading condition. So within the context of the Ambazonian War of Liberation against Cameroon, the greater kidnapper is Cameroon as a state policy. What happens in Ambazonia are opportunistic activities. That is why in recognizing these activities, the Ambazonian Governing Council has put in place the anti-kidnapping czar, working with soldiers on the ground to nip some of these activities from the bud. We have also instituted, sometimes kidnapping is driven by resource mobilization necessity. That's why we instituted a law which we pronounced publicly, debated, and adopted to ensure that those who control the territory are able to impose taxes on businesses that operate within Ambazonia, so that they can get these businesses to pay their taxes to those who control the territory. Territoriality is linked with taxation, and that is perfectly in order within the context of a liberation struggle. That there will be continuous violation, that there will be opportunistic activities is a natural occurrence. But Ambazonians should never, no individual residing abroad or in the territory, benefit from activities that has led to either the kidnap or the legal arrest of individuals, and they have benefited from monies being transferred from those activities for their own interests. Every taxation policy instituted during this liberation struggle is designed not only to mobilize resources, but to mitigate certain activities that have been underground and have been detrimental to the cohesion of our struggle. We must be aware that in these difficult times, the opportunities and scavengers will spend a field day trying to discredit our struggle and to run a kind of a blanket operation activities to make sure that they discourage you, they frighten you. We have said it clearly and publicly. All businesses operating within Ambazonia, especially in areas where we have dynamic control, should subject to taxation through the Ambazonian Liberation Tax Law. All businesses will be subject to that, and those who default will be taken into custody for questioning and make sure that they pay their taxes in times of genocide against our people. My fellow countrymen and women, in the struggle for our liberation, like in other struggles, there will be victims. That has never deterred people engaged in their struggle. There will be criminals, there will be spoilers, but the majority of Ambazonians are engaged in a resistance for their survival, for the protection of their homeland. In the South African struggle, there were opportunists who took advantage of the liberation to enrich themselves. There were people who were attacked as terrorists, indicted, jailed for life. So too in other struggles. We must remain doggedly committed to our struggle. The Ambazonian Governing Council has made it abundantly clear that all those who run defense forces on the ground must have command and control and make sure that their forces respect a code of conduct that can be regulated according to context. That there must be a political structure that is aware of the consequences on certain activities to ensure that fighters on the ground adhere to customary norms. There might not be laws, there might not be treaties, but there are customary norms that even if you violate within a particular niche that does not attack the citizens of any other country, you can be subjected to arrest in any other country. Torture is one of such norms where it has been outlawed and declared. Everyone engaged in torture is declared hostile humani generis, enemy of mankind. So all groups should make sure that they respond to political leadership that gives directives, that is able to manage activities, that is able to explain and educate. There are going to be persons engaged in activities unknowingly that might constitute violation of international practices. We continue to provide leadership to ensure that our people are continuously educated on these things. But we must know we are facing a genocidal regime, and we must arm ourselves to the teeth to make sure that we fight Cameroon block by block, neighborhood by neighborhood, until their last soldier is expelled from our country and they are held accountable for the crimes that they've committed in our country. The world has remained mute. They have not invoked the responsibility to protect in the face of this genocide. And Ambazonians are left with no choice to be the sole provider, the sole primary investors in their own freedom. And I urge all of you not to blink in the face of what is going on in your homeland. The Americans fought for it. The Brits defended Buckingham Palace. The French defended their street. The Poles fought in their trenches. Even the Norwegian king expelled from Norway made sure that there was resistance in his country to be brought back after the demise of Germany. It is our right under the sun to exist, and we have risen. Until the enemy goes out, we will not blink. God bless you all.